first family members that arrived here in Desert Hot Springs was my grandmother, Frances McGee, and her husband, Clay McGee. And they came here, as much as I know, late 30s. And they built a little house on the corner of what now is Cactus and Pearson. My grandparents came here from the East Coast and just started a new beginning, as the best I can know. My grandfather, McGee, was a plumber by trade, and he helped start a whole lot of different little houses in this area. And my grandmother, Frances, was just very active in the church, and the one block behind where they lived was the Baptist church, and she played the piano for the church, and she was very active in that. And then also in the club, women's club here in Desert Hot Springs, the beginning of all that. Yes, she was one of the original members of the women's club, and I don't know if there's any other members left in this area, because it was one of the older ladies' club, I guess you would say. My father, Jack Morey, he came here after the war. His father lived in Anaheim, but he would come out here on the weekends and things like that. And McGee got him started in the concrete business. And so he became a concrete contractor here in the desert, and that's where he started, and he did very well at it. They came from the East Coast. That's where they met, as far as I know. He was my step-grandfather, McGee was, and my grandmother, Frances. And they came here together, and that's where they started. I don't know anything else. I wish I did. I wish I would have questioned more. My grandmother, she was a neat lady. She was of an air that we lost. She was full of common sense. My grandmother Frances was. I called her Nina. That's what she was called. And she shared a lot of neat things with me on this world. How to look at things differently than how the city life. And I was very much an outdoors wandering child. My father, kind of a cute little story. Jack, before he married my mother, he lived here, and I don't know how, but he bought what was the nudist colony, which is up here in Painted Hills, direct behind where we're shooting actually. And he ended up trading it for the home that we all lived in for, well, till I was 18 and moved out. He kept the house until the early 90s. To my understanding, it happened pretty fast of him trading. And what the house was an old chicken ranch. So it was just a small 2-bedroom house that had all these extra sheds for the chickens and garages. In time, it really changed, though. But I remember asking him, were you a nudist, during this time? And he just kind of smirked and said, sometimes. But it was a neat facility. It has a great pool, and they had their own well up there. And it was, at one time, a place to go for people. And that would have been in 50s. That's the 50s. And he actually traded that for the house that I grew up in, where I would say things evolved. They got married. He had his business, which my father, Jack, started his business doing homestead lots. That's where he started. As my mother would say, that's what supported them, helped her buy beans. That's what we ate for a lot of years to try to make it. But that's where the community started, in that era where other people started to move here, and that's where the Rotary first started up. The younger women had another club called the Pied Pipers, and they were good fundraisers. They worked a lot with Angel View when Angel View first started. So there was a lot of fundraisers going on for Angel View and the different youth center here in town. And that's where people started coming together as a community and to become Desert Hot Springs. But it was a smaller community. It's not like that anymore. It has changed. My father knew Cabot, Jack, my father knew Cabot, and he did different things, I guess, at Cabot's Lodge, little concrete areas or stuff like that, because Clay McGee, who is his stepfather, did the plumbing there, just like at the house that is the historical house. My grandfather did the plumbing there. Kind of knew him, and he was different. He was eccentric, but he was different. That's how my father put it. The only other person I can think of that really goes back into our history would have been the Haydids and Jim Hayded's mother. I knew her. I'm trying to think of her name. I'm blank. And then Morgan's was another one that was here, and they were involved in the women's club, and he was also very active. Morgan was in Angel View in the beginning of all that. That's about all I can say in that area. I can think. Humberto Lopez, which is, we called him Lope, and his wife Nancy Lopez. He had the local liquor store, which was on Palm Drive. He built that building, and there was like other storefronts there with him. It's no longer a liquor store. He was one of the original people of Desert Hot Springs that I can remember. The Hortons, the Hortons, Ray and Al Horton had the Hortons Market here in town, and we were all really good. All these are family friends that we, as a community, always got together and did things. They were a bunch of partiers. If they could come up for a reason to have a party, oh boy, it's not only fun, but a lot of them were fundraisers also. Other ones, the Santucci's, they had the Capri restaurant here in town for many years. There's Hayded's Hardware, Jim Hayded and Mildred Hayded had that for years. That's about all that's coming to my mind right now that are more of the founding of my era. Angel View is a children's hospital, crippled children's hospital that was started here in Desert Hot Springs by a doctor. I have the newspaper clippings on that I will share with the Historical Society, that would take in crippled children. The families just could not take care of them. They had no other place to go because they had so much need to be cared for, because of their afflictions were so tremendous. And so this hospital was started, and it's still here. The original one's still here, and it's still functional to some extent. And the Rotary was very active in sponsoring and taking care of, and then what was the Pied Pipers Women's Club, there was very active in fundraisers and helped to raise money. And that time when Palm Springs was the Hollywood scene, people would come here. So many movie stars would volunteer their time for fundraisers. They used to have great parades down Palm Springs, and they would ride on the Angel View floats purposely to draw attention. And now these kids now grow up and they still need to be taken care of. So there's now here in Desert Hot Springs probably 8 houses at least that these children that are now adults move to, and they're still cared for, and they take in 3 or 4 of these adults now and care for them the rest of their life. But it's sad how many of these kids almost are like dropped off by their families, and they never came to visit much because it was such a heartache, for them. But as a kid growing up, I would go with my mom and the youth groups, and we would go and visit with the kids and try to interact with them. And we'd all leave there going very sad, but we tried to keep cheer up while we were there. There's more facilities around now that take in children like this. This I think was like a groundbreaking thing, that they took these kids in and kept them all the time. They lived there. And I guess there was a couple movie star children that were there. That was kind of sad that they never come to see them. So with our youth group, we always used to go one time a week or 2 times a month and just go up there and spend a couple hours. I mean, they were there, but their bodies weren't functioning. It was just sad. I remember them doing a parade, and I got to ride in the parade with little Joe, you know, from Bonanza. I can't think of his name right now, but that was like, oh, you know, such a... But we had all kinds of stars, you know, the Sinatras, and all of them were very, very helpful and giving and of their time and money. So that's what helped with Angel View to be what it is now. With the Rotary, for a fundraiser, they used to do a turkey shoot, which is not actually turkeys, it was skeet shooting. And they did it at Thanksgiving time, Easter, and Christmas for a weekend or 2 in those areas. And it was, like I said, the Rotary Club. And where it was at our house. On the 10-acre parcel, they set up 2 skeets pits, and the Rotary decorated a trailer, and they sold hamburgers out of it. And it was quite, they raised thousands of dollars from that event, and they did that for quite a few years. And that was a neat community thing of Desert Hot Springs. I was raised, like I said, it was an old chicken ranch. At that time, I played in the desert. I was out of town, so I didn't have sidewalks and neighbors. So I played in the desert. So I was a wanderer. And I would go out in the desert and just keep wandering, and my dog would go with me. I was probably 5-ish, maybe young. No, I wasn't in school yet, so 4-ish. I wandered, and my dog went with me, and I wandered into town from where we live now. There's all kinds of houses, but then there wasn't. It was just desert, and I ended up on the corner kind of close to Pearson and West, and with my dog, and some man had stopped and was trying to talk to me, and another lady came up, which is a family friend, and got out of the car and said, "You better not get near her. That dog will bite you." And she loaded me in the car and took me home. And I remember my mother threatening me, not me, she threatened my dog. She said, "If you take off like that again, I'll spank your dog." So I never wandered that far again. But I just lived in the desert. Well, I did quite a bit of rebellion, I guess you would say. But I think probably one of the most different, outrageous things I did, I had a motorcycle, off-road motorcycle, and I was part of a group with just one other girl and guys, and we all had SL70s, XR75 Hondas that we used to go ride all over the desert. We could do that, you know. But the craziest thing I did probably was my boyfriend at the time used to race motorcycles and was sponsored, and he was being sponsored. So all of us went down to Ensenada. My parents had a trailer down there, and from there I pre-run the Baja 500 with him on our bikes. I didn't go the whole way. I only got to what is called Mike's Sky Ranch, which was probably from Ensenada to half of it, 250, 280, and I couldn't go any farther because it started raining and the roads just flooded out. So after we spent the night up there, then I rode home or back to the trailer, and my parents weren't real happy about me doing that, but my mother was very happy when she saw me show up at the trailer. But I was by myself, and she's like, "No one came back with you?" I said, "No, I was fine." So I rode 250 miles back by myself, and it was a fun experience. That's kind of how my life was, you know, from the kid wandering in the desert to playing off-road. that's left this desert we don't have anymore is the desert iguanas, which are called fringe-toed lizards, and they were big white lizards, and I couldn't walk through a lot without running across 5 or 8 or 10, and now they're just almost gone. And now when I see when it's like, oh, stop, I want to take a picture. But, you know, progress, development. A fun memory I have of Desert Hot Springs is my father, Jack Morey, and many other men used to play in Little League teams here in the area. And the chamber, it was either with the chamber or Rotary, I don't remember, but it was just a fun event. And they would play donkey baseball. And that means that you had to, if you bat, you hit the ball and then you got to grab the mule by the lead rope or get on it, whatever you prefer, and get to first base. And then it had to stay there with you, first base. Okay, if you're out in the field, you had the donkey with you. In order to go get the ball, you had to pull the donkey, push the donkey, ride the donkey to where? And it was just total laughter the whole game. No alcohol needed. It was total fun laughter. And I was a child probably of somewhere between 5 and 7. So that would put it in the early 60s, late 50s.